Hello Year 9, this is Lesson 4, what are the main characteristics of tropical rainforests? Today's lesson objectives are to understand these main characteristics. So I don't just mean that you are able to describe them, that means say what they are like, but also to explain them. So to be able to say why they are like they are. So the answer to the first little question whilst you were registering is B and C. Let's do a quiz. You will want to pause whilst you write these answers down. Please remember to put the date and title in your book as well. So 3, 2, 1, pause. Please check your answers and mark them in red pen, please. Then could you type your score out of 8 into the Q&A box so that your teacher can see how you did. If you need to pause, pause now. Right, the main characteristics we're going to look at are location, climate, soils and structure. So we'll start with location. At the end of last lesson, you did a question like this to practice. Have another go now. So this would be for 4 marks. I have put the tip boxes on for you and I've named the different areas of tropical forest for you on the map. So this should take you about 5 minutes. So pause now. And now have a look at these examples so that you can mark your own. So remember that this question was marked out of 4. A 4-mark example has a lot of detail. It shows the patterns, it mentions the continents and the countries, and it also uses compass directions to say which parts of the continents. As well as the basic pattern, it also has the anomalies. The 2-mark example still has some detail. It's very thorough, but it hasn't really drawn out the pattern as well, and it hasn't mentioned any anomalies. You mark your answer considering where it comes compared to these two. Pause if you need to. 3, 2, 1, pause. On to climate then. So tropical rainforests thrive, that means they do really well, in warm and wet conditions. The equatorial zone where they are found is characterised by high rainfall, that's over 2,000 millimetres a year, and high temperatures that average around 27 degrees Celsius throughout the year. Temperatures are high and constant all year round because the sun is overhead for most of the time. The rainfall is high because the global atmospheric circulation causes an area of low pressure to form at the equator. Rising air creates clouds and triggers heavy convectional rainfall. Areas of tropical forest can experience variations of rainfall throughout the year with a distinct wet season that can last for 6 months. This is caused by the tilt of the Earth during the year, meaning that the equatorial low pressure belt can be directly overhead, causing a period of even more intense rainfall. So here's a diagram of the global atmospheric circulation model to remind you. So we did this a couple of months ago, and at point A on this diagram you can see that it's around the equator where the highest solar energy input is received, and at point B, it's same place because this is on the equator. This is the effect of the hot air rising. As the hot air rises, it creates low pressure underneath. So B shows the equatorial region of low pressure belt. So this thing about the wet and much wetter season is caused by the effect of the tilt of the Earth. We just saw on the last diagram how the global atmospheric circulation model meant that the most intense solar radiation was received at the equator. However, as the Earth orbits the Sun, the effect of the tilt means that the impact of the solar radiation effectively moves from the equator up to the Tropic of Cancer, back down to the equator, and then further down to the Tropic of Capricorn. So in June, our summer, the most solar radiation is hitting around the Tropic of Cancer, and in December the solar radiation is hitting mostly around the Tropic of Capricorn, and throughout the year it goes north and south up to these. So here's a question. Describe an account for the climate of the tropical forest biome. And we have here a climate graph for a place called Manaus in the Brazilian Amazonian rainforest. Now, a climate graph has blue bars for the precipitation or rainfall and a red line for the temperature. The temperature is in degrees Celsius and the rainfall is in millimetres. So on this graph you also have some information such as the altitude, 33 metres, the climate, Am as in Amazonian, it says degrees C, 27.4, that's the average, millimetres, 2,145, that's the total for the year. Along the bottom, numbers 1 to 12, that's the months of the year. So I've done a little answer for you here. Manaus is located in the Brazilian Amazon rainforest. Its climate is hot and wet because it is near the equator. Now I have tried to do both parts of the question there, describe and account for. Describe means say what it's like, and account for means give a reason, explain why. So it does say what it's like, it's hot and wet, and it says why, because it is near the equator. However, that is not a very good answer at all. That would probably score you 1 out of 6. What else do you need to make it better? Think about that. Think about the detail that you could add to this answer. Some detail for the description, but also some detail that accounts for, that gives reasons for it. So this should take you about 5 minutes if you could pause and write your own much improved answer. 3, 2, 1, pause. This is what a 6-mark answer would look like. There's quite a lot there and it's very detailed. Let's have a look. Manaus is located in the Brazilian Amazon rainforest. Its climate is hot and wet all year round. Started pretty much the same. The temperature does not vary very much and is 27.4 degrees C on average. This is because the area receives the highest solar energy input as it is near the equator. There is high rainfall through the year, ranging from the driest month in August, with approximately 50 millimetres of rain, to March with around 300 millimetres of rain. The yearly total is 2,145 millimetres. However, there is a very heavy rainfall between the months of December and May. This is because Manaus is south of the equator, so the equatorial low pressure belt is more directly overhead during this half of the year, causing even more convectional rain to fall for this half of the year. If you would like to pause for a couple of minutes and add any details that you missed to make your answer as good as this one. 3, 2, 1, pause. On to the next characteristic, which is soil, and I've put a photograph there. This soil is called Latersol and it is very red. It's very red because of its high iron content, so you know, like the colour of rust. So rainforest soils are surprisingly infertile. Most of the nutrients are found on the surface of the ground where dead leaves decompose rapidly in the hot and humid conditions. Many plants and trees have shallow roots in order to absorb these nutrients. Fungi growing on the roots transfer nutrients straight from the air. This is a good example of nutrient recycling. Heavy rainfall can quickly dissolve and carry away nutrients. This is called leaching. It leaves behind an infertile, red, iron-rich soil called Latersol. Now on to the structure of a rainforest, and here's a diagram for you. The most important things to notice here are the layers. So if I'm going to start not at the top but one down at the canopy. The canopy is an almost continuous layer of treetops between 15 to 30 metres above the ground. Now the emergence are the tallest trees which emerge from the top of the canopy. They've grown even higher towards the sunlight. Everything about this structure is to do with competition for sunlight. So the trees in the canopy and the emergence are receiving lots and lots of sunlight. However, everything below the canopy receives much less sunlight. If one of these emergent trees were to die and fall over or be cut down, then it would suddenly create a space where lots of light could reach the under canopy and the shrub layer, and there would be a very rapid growth of plants and young trees in this area as quick as they could to reach for light before a new canopy in that area was formed, blocking out the light. So it's very dark down by the shrub layer. I'd like to point out to you the red lines. They are lianas, a type of vine, but we're going to look at vegetation in more detail next lesson. There's also the buttress roots. These are the very large but overground roots of the tallest trees. So they can go up to 5 metres tall above the ground. We're used to roots being below the ground, but remember that the soil is actually quite thin and infertile, so there's not much point in the roots going deep into the ground because there is very few nutrients in the soil to get out. Most of the nutrients are in the leaf litter layer, which is the very top of the soil. So I'd like you to pause and spend about 10 minutes making a good sketch of this rainforest structure. You don't have to colour it in, but of course you can do. but I'm not intending for this to take a really long time, maximum of 10 minutes. 3, 2, 1, pause. And now we're reaching the end of the lesson, so we're going to put these things together. So this is your question. In what ways do climate and soil affect the structure of the rainforest? Now, remember that a 6-mark answer has plenty of detail. I've included a little picture there of that climate answer. It was a lot bigger and a lot more detailed than I think you were expecting. The things that you need to include in your answer are listed here, and this should take you at least 10 minutes, probably more like 15 minutes to do this answer justice. Right? Now, this answer is part of today's work, which is going to be submitted to your teacher. So you're probably going to want to pause and go back and look at some of the notes, make a really good answer to this. So 3, 2, 1, pause. Well done. Now take a photo of the work that you've done for this lesson and send it to your teacher on Satchel 1. If you can't send it on Satchel 1 for any reason, then please email it directly to your teacher. But remember that when you're using an email, you must use your school email, please. Otherwise, your teacher can't open your email. Not that we can't, but that we shouldn't. We're not allowed to, you see. So, next lesson, we're on to vegetation in more depth. We are going to look at some adaptations of vegetation to climate and soil in tropical rainforests. Thank you very much indeed. Bye.